Hello everyone and welcome to our tutorial walkthrough of tutorial 2 from building a database and defining table relationships. Now I've got the correct database from the tutorial database we created in lesson 1 or tutorial 1, which you can see here is our Chatham database. So we are going to build on to the one that we created in last lesson, and we will build some new features into this, and we'll go ahead and get started with that now. So a customer has given us some criteria that she needs for this database. We need to create a new table called the billing table. So we're going to add a new table in our table section here, and to start that we're going to go up here to our ribbon area and we're going to click on the Create tab. Once you click on that, we're going to go to our tables group and we are going to select Table Design. As you click on Table Design, you will see that a new table opens up, and we are in the Design view here now, and we will be able to create our new table using this method rather than our datasheet view. So let's go ahead and get started now. Now, as you read, the Design view here allows us to define or modify table structure or the properties of the fields in that table. We have several different elements available to us here. I'm going to go ahead and click our shutter closed here so we have more viewing space. As you see here in our field name area, we have a field name column, and this is where we can enter the name for each new field in our table. Now when you first open the new table window in Design View here, field name is the current property. Now next we look next to the right of there in the data type column. You can select the appropriate data type for each new field in the table. Now the data, you determine what field values you can enter for a field and what other properties in the field will have. Now the default data type for a new field here in Access 2013 is short text. So every time you create a new field, the default data type here will be short text. Now that we've identified two areas here in this top portion here, go ahead and define that now. The top portion of this table window here in our design view is called the Table Design Grid. So here's where we're going to enter the values for the field name, the data type, and we have the description area here too, which is optional, but I find it very helpful to use this description area when we are creating our databases, because if we leave and someone else comes in, they might want to know why we created this field or why we use that data type. So here in the description field, we can give them some information to help them along. Now Access will give us a default name for a new table whenever we do this, and as you can see, this one here is Table 1. If you already had a Table 1, it'd probably be called Table 2, but every time we go to create a new table in Design View, Access gives it a default name. Now since we've not done anything and saved this table yet, if you open up the shutter bar here, you'll see that that additional table is not listed here in our work area, that in our navigation pane. Nothing's been created yet, so Access as a database does not recognize a new table because no work has been saved here yet to actually save the table to our actual database. Once we start populating some fields up here and giving some data types, we will then see that in our General tab is going to display some additional field values or field properties for the data type. Initially, most field properties are assigned default values based on the data type. Now Access gives us a shortcut down here at the bottom left, if you look there. So when defining the fields in a Access table, you can move from the Table Design Grid down here to the Field Properties area simply by pressing the F6 key, the function 6 key, to switch between the panes. Lastly, we'll take a look at the bottom right section here. Now the purpose of characteristics of the current property, and in our case right now it's field name, appear in this section of the Field Properties pane whenever we have one selected. Now you can display more complete help information about the current property that you're working with by simply pressing the F1 key to bring that help menu up. Well, now that we have a good feel for the design view area, let's go ahead and start creating that new billing table. Now, the first field that we are going to define is going to be called Invoice Num. So if we go up here into the first row, select that area, we're going to go ahead and type Invoice Num. Once you've got that typed in, go ahead and press the Tab key. And by pressing that, you will advance to the data type box. And as I said, short text is the default that will always appear when you're creating new fields. And once that's created, you will also see that you now have information populated down here in your field properties area. Those default values and descriptions for this data type. Now, if we wanted to change this data type, we can simply click the drop down arrow here and we can then define based on these selections here, or you could just start typing in. If you wanted to change it to long, you could type in long and you'll see that that will automatically go to it. If we wanted a hyperlink, start typing the age for hyper and it's going to go down there, but we want to keep this as short text. With short text defined as our data type, we're going to go ahead and press the Tab key. We're going to go to our description field, and for this table we want our invoice number to be our primary key. So we're going to go ahead and put that information in so that the next person, or if we need to remind ourselves, will know that we wanted that defined as our primary key for this billing table. Now, simply putting in text does not actually define this field as our primary key, so we will need to do that manually. Now, if we look at our field properties area here, you'll see that our default field size for short text has been set to 255. Well, we know the basis of the information that's going to be going into this field, so we don't need 255. Instead, we're going to go ahead and change that to a value of 5. So just click in that area, select the information, and type a value of 5. Now, as invoices start to get put in, we have our range set for our field size as it needs to be. All of our invoices are going to be set to 5 because that is what our invoice format has been set up to. So now we've done a little design work on this field. Let's go ahead and take a look at the caption area. And we're going to add some type in here for our caption. We're going to select that, and we want invoice num to be represented here. Let's go ahead and type that in. Once you've done that, you have set the caption property for this field so that its name appears with a space in between there, invoice num, unlike our field name up here. Once you have completed that, we have defined our very first field, and we've completed that one. Now let's start creating or defining some other fields. So our next one we're going to go to is up here. If you go to the field name, we're going to define this one as visit ID. Once you've got visit ID in there, hit the Tab key, and we are going to go ahead and leave this as short text as well. So you'll hit the Tab there. This is going to be a foreign key based on our table, so we're going to go ahead and type that here in our description. If you're wondering about why it's a foreign key, if you recall when you created the visit table, you'll know that that was included in there as well. And that when we created that, it was the primary key for the visit table. So since we are using that here in this billing table, that's why it is a foreign key. Alright, so now let's use our shortcut using the F6 key to switch panes. As you see, when you press the F6 key, you automatically get taken down to the field properties area, and we are in our first area of field size. Now we want to change this field size to the size of 4, so go ahead and type that now to change the field size. You've done that successfully, great job. Finally, we need to set the caption property, and we want to go down there. We just use our arrow keys. There we are in the caption area. We want to type our caption of visit ID. Make sure you include a space between the two words. Once you've done that, you've completely defined the visit ID field. Great job with that. Now we will define our third field, which is the invoice amount field.